It is with great joy and anticipation that we gather here today for the inauguration of the third International Conference on Technologies in Energy, Agriculture and Healthcare, that is ICTEAH 2026, a confluence of ideas, innovation and interdisciplinary dialogue. As we embark on this conference, I, Ms. Anima, have the privilege to host the session. I extend a very warm welcome to all the visionaries whose presence lends strength, purpose, and inspiration to the gathering. Please join me in welcoming Professor Dr. Ajay Kapoor, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Somaya Vidya Vihar University, Dr. Arumugam Murukaya, our distinguished chief guest, Dr. Suresh Ukarande, Conference Chair and Director, KJ Somaya School of Engineering, Dr. Deepak Sharma, Deputy Director, KJ Somaya School of Engineering, Dr. Shailesh Nikam, the Organizing Secretary of the conference, Dr. Nandana Prabhu and Dr. Makarand Kulkarni, Joint Organizing Secretaries of ICTEAH 2026. To mark the auspicious beginning of this event, I now request our dignitaries to please come up on the dais for the lighting of the ceremonial lamp, a symbol of enlightenment, wisdom, and the pursuit of knowledge. May this flame inspire new ideas, promote collaboration, and illuminate innovative pathways in the domains of energy, agriculture, and healthcare. As the ceremonial lamp is lit up, representing the light of knowledge and discovery, let's take a moment to seek the blessings for the journey ahead. I request everyone to please rise and join us for the Somaya prayer, followed by Maharashtra Geet.
पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ ईशावास्यमिदं सर्वम् यत्किञ्च सत्यां जगत् तेन त्यक्तेन भुञ्जीथा मा गृधः स्विद्धनम् मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम् ॐ प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती नीनामविद्य असतो मा सत्तमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनस्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै सर्वेऽत्र सुखिनः सन्तु सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखमाप्नुयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति
भीतीनं आम्हा तुझी मुळी कडकडणाऱ्या नभा
अस्मानाच्या सुलतानीला जबाब देती जिभा सह्याद्रीचा सिंह गर्जतो शिवशंभू राजा
दरी दरीतून नाद गुंजला महाराष्ट्र माझा
काळ्या छातीवरी कोरली अभिमानाची लेणी
ओलादी मनगटे खेळती खेळ जीव घेणी
दारिद्र्याच्या उन्हात शिजला
निधळाच्या घामाने भिजला
देश गौरवासाठी झिजला
दिल्लीचेही दस्तराणी तो महाराष्ट्र माझा जय जय महाराष्ट्र माझा गरजा महाराष्ट्र माझा जय जय महाराष्ट्र माझा
I now invite Dr. Shailesh Nikkam, Organizing Secretary of ICTEAH, to welcome everyone and establish the tone for our upcoming discussions.
Good morning to one and all. Chief guest of today's program, Dr. Arumugam, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Somaya Vidya Vihar University, Professor Ajay Kapoor, Director of KJ Somaya School of Engineering, Dr. Suresh Ukarande, Deputy Director, Dr. Deepak Sharma, invited speaker, Professor Holkar, HOIs of various institutes, deans, HODs, faculty members, and dear participants. It gives me immense pleasure to extend warm welcome to all of you gathered here for 3rd International Conference on Technologies for Energy, Agriculture, and Healthcare. We have started with the first edition of this conference in year 2024 under the leadership of our director, Dr. Suresh Ukarande, and we have successfully reached to the 3rd edition of this conference in this year 2026. This conference is providing a platform to showcase research findings related to technologies for energy, agriculture, and healthcare, addressing to the Sustainable Development Goals. I am happy to share that proceeding of both the previous conference is published with the Talleyrand Francis and it is digitally indexed. This year we have received 349 submissions from all over the India and 2 more countries. Submitted articles went through double-blind review process, rigorous double-blind review process, thanks to all our internal and external reviewers. And finally, we have accepted 107 articles to present in this conference, along with few posters. More than 125 participants registered from all over the India. We have total 5 invited talks lined up in these 2 days by the eminent speakers from the different domain of energy, agriculture, and healthcare. My best wishes to all the presenters who will be presenting their work in the different sessions. Also, I would like to appeal that you interact and make best use of this platform to network and to exchange your ideas. My best wishes to all of you. Once again, as an organizing secretary, I welcome all of you for this 3rd International Conference on Technologies for Energy, Agriculture, and Healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nikam. We are deeply honored to have with us today our esteemed chief guest, Dr. Arumugam Murugaya. I request Dr. Deepak Sharma, the Deputy Director of KJ Somya School of Engineering and the conference co-chair, to introduce Dr. Murugaya.
Good morning once again. It's my privilege to introduce our chief guest today, Dr. Arumugam Murugaya. He is the Managing Director, Broadline Innovation Private Limited India, Founder and Chairman, Broadino Incorporation, Independent Director, Arsa Energy Limited India, Member, Advisory Panel for Industry Department, Government of Tamil Nadu, Chairman, Investment Committee, TNFI-MC, Member, Harvard Tamil Chair Incorporation USA, Trustee, Rojan Muthaiya, Library established by University of Chicago, Member, Quantum Action Committee, Tamil Nadu, India, Member of Board, Maha Quantum Corridor, Maharashtra State, India. Dr. Arumugam possesses over 40 years of expertise in information technology and management. His career is marked by substantial contributions, both as technology entrepreneur and as a visiting professor. In year 2000, he received prestigious Indian Prime Minister's Best E-Governance Innovation Award, the IEEE Award for Innovation in Bringing Servers, and the IABC USA Color Award in 2022. His contribution in artificial intelligence was recognized with Pioneer Award at ATEA, the Computer History Museum in Silicon Valley. He possesses a dual degree, one in computer science with specialization in artificial intelligence and neural systems, and another in supply chain management. His professional journey began at Digital Equipment Corporation USA and IBM Watson Lab USA. Then he served as a procurement specialist at the World Bank for 3 years to pursue his entrepreneurship ventures. He founded Broadline, a comprehensive IT company specializing in governance, logistics, supply chain, health, power, education, and Industry 4.0. He collaborates closely with SAP, Oracle, Siemens on Industry 4.0 and 5.0 projects in the USA through Broadino Incorporation in Chicago. He is an architect of the drug logistic management model for India, which has earned recognition from international agencies such as DFID, DENIDA, UNAIDS, and the World Bank. This model has been replicated nationwide and globally. Notably, he played a key role in utilities reform in the Department of Energy and built power utilities for India. Utilizing Siemens' digital knowledge, he devised a blueprint for an industry center of excellence centered on Industry 4.0. This proposal garnered strong support from the government of Tamil Nadu, culminating in establishment of a non-profit entity, TANSAM, at Chennai. TANSAM has evolved into a technology showcase attracting visitors from small and medium-sized businesses, large industrial corporations, startups, and learners from across the India. Over the past years, they have provided training to over 140,000 students and professionals and place them in industry. The Maha Quantum Corridor is a strategic initiative by Government of Maharashtra designed to establish a state as a premier hub for quantum technology and artificial intelligence established between the state, Sweden's Scandian AB, and USA-based IonQ. The project features the deployment of an IonQ Tempo 65 quantum computer and the construction of a 1,200-kilometer quantum network. This infrastructure aims to leverage quantum secure communication and high-performance computing to drive innovation in sectors like pharmaceuticals, logistics, and sustainable infrastructure while creating high-end technology-driven jobs. He maintains a strong academic presence, having held positions as adjunct professor of supply chain at MIT and MIT Zaragoza Logistics Center in Spain, and as a visiting professor of technology at the Center for Robotics and Neural Systems, Plymouth University in UK. He participated in establishing the Tamil Chair at Harvard University and the University of Toronto. He has many patents in his credit, the most recent being the Oxygen Saver patent in USA. He is highly regarded speaker at international conferences where he shares his expertise in generative AI applications in computer vision, simulation modeling, industry automation, and Industry 4.0, quantum computing applications in healthcare, logistics, and supply chain management and e-governance. So on behalf of all of us, I once again welcome you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharma sir. As a token of our respect and appreciation, I now request our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Ajay Kapoor, to felicitate Dr. Murugayya. I now invite Dr. Suresh Karande, Conference Chair and Director of KJ Somaiya School of Engineering, to address the gathering and share his vision behind ICTAH.
Yeah, good morning to all of you. Chief guest of today's third international conference, Dr. M. Arugama, our Vice Chancellor, Professor Ajay Kapoor, Dr. Deepak Sharma, Dr. Nikam, Dr. Maktan Kulkarni, Dr. Nandana Prabhu, heads of departments, associate deans, faculty members, participants to this conference, researchers across India and from 2 more countries, paper reviewers, and dear students. On behalf of KJ Somaiya School of Engineering, Somaiya Vidyavihar University, I welcome you all for this third international conference on energy, agriculture, and healthcare. You know, these 3 domains, 3 areas, energy, agriculture, and healthcare, are very important for the development of any country, and thinking these 3 major domains which we have identified as the thrust areas, we have decided to have the conference, and this is the 3rd year of the conference. Now, first domain, that is energy. You all know it very well, the energy, how it is, generated, that is making use of fossil fuels, that is what we say coal and oil. But, and then thereafter it is more focus on hydropower, hydel energy. But it was impacting, it is impacting the overall environment. But we should protect the environment, and with that intention, the renewable energy in the form of maybe majorly it's solar and wind, to some extent it's tidal power even and to nuclear power even, but major contribution in renewable energies through this wind power, solar and wind power. And as on date, 30% of the energy consumption is taken care by this renewable energy, that is wind and solar power. And this 30% has to increase. I'll not say totally replaced, 100% has to be renewable energy, but this 30% should go to 40, 50, 60, 70% and reduce the load on this fossil fuels, that is coal and oil, which is affecting the environment as such. And the countries which are, generating this renewable energy, India stands in top 5 countries, the USA, China, Germany, India, and a few more countries, but India tops in top 5. So second thing is about agriculture. As you know it very well, the area under cultivation is now stable, or it may reduce in future. That is because of this urbanization, because of industrialization, area under cultivation will reduce, but the population increases. How to cater this population as far as food is concerned? So then there is a intervention of technology is required. We know a lot of research innovations are happened in this energy, agriculture, healthcare domain, but still we have to go a long way, and to cater the population, we need to have a more yield from the same acreage of land, or maybe reduced acreage of land in near future. So that is possible through the technology intervention like AI in agriculture, AI in healthcare, or maybe AI in energy even, or whichever the technology is useful. And majorly we are talking about this AI nowadays. And maybe as far as agriculture is concerned, with only simple technology, simple thing, that is drip irrigation, 50% of water is saved. And yield can be increased to 10 to 20% with the more intervention of technologies, maybe IoT, maybe taking care of soil health, taking care of diseases on these crops. The yield will be increasing to 20 to 30 to 40% even. And that's what the requirement of time, and wherein this technology will play an important role. Third domain is about the healthcare. You know the advancement happening in this healthcare domain, that is the CT scan, MRI, or the robotic surgery. So all these are very prominent technology interventions in healthcare domain. But this is general. What about this? Maybe energy, maybe healthcare, maybe agriculture. But what we do at university level, what we do at institute level, what we do at individual faculty level, even student level, that is more important. As a university, as an institute, we work in these domains. And as I told you, this energy, agriculture, and healthcare are major 3 domains. And faculty are working on various projects. They are publishing papers, they are publishing copyrights, patents. Nearly 50% publications which are happening through this, our own institute, KJ Somaiya School of Engineering, are from these 3 domains: energy, agriculture, and healthcare. Now, to have this interdisciplinary or multidisciplinary research happening in this institute, we have already established the centers in agriculture, center in healthcare, and center in energy, so that faculty and students of BTech, MTech, and PhD will come together and work. It's not, the computer department faculty will work in silos, or IT will work in silos, mechanical work in silos. Under this umbrella of centers, faculty are coming together and working on various research projects. I'll give the example of simple about the energy. Now this is the auditorium, which was, air conditioning system was to be designed for this auditorium, and outside agency was appointed. They have given tonnage of 53 plus. Then one of our faculty member from the institute has also worked on it and given the tonnage of 43 or 44 of tonnage. And see the difference, 53 and 43. By keeping some this is safety margin, it was suggested 49 tons. So it is approximately 14 kilowatts, that is 14 units saving of energy per hour. And see the usage of this auditorium in a day, in a week, and over the years. How much of energy is saved? So it's, creating energy is one thing, and saving energy is also, it's a creating energy. So such initiatives are implemented at this institute by the faculty members. Another example is for the energies, we are offered a consultancy by Tata Power. It's a one-day ahead load forecasting. Now it is now casting. Maybe how much energy is required in 1 hour down the line. It's not only one week or one day, but 1 hour down the line, how much energy is required. So that much is predicted by AI model. And accordingly, that results are submitted to Tata Power, and accordingly, that much only Tata is generating or buying and making available to the customers. So with this intervention of technology like AI model is helping to save the energy and protect the environment. There are so many initiatives, that is, our own faculty members are guiding the PhD students in this agricultural domain, healthcare domain, and so many initiatives are happening at this institute. So at this juncture, we are committed to work in these three domains so that not only institute but university contributes to some extent for the development of a nation. Once again, I welcome all the participants, and this conference is not simply to come and present paper and go. It's not meant for that. That you should talk to your peers, those who are attending the conference, talk to the session chairs, talk to the experts in this domain, exchange ideas, exchange the thought process, and have connect. And when you go back to the institute, again have this connect, use this connect and work in your own area of research. So that it's not only one institute faculty is working, so that some 2-3 institutes coming together working on the same problem statement, more complex problem statement that is going to help the research in this domain. So once again, I appreciate for attending this conference, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Karandev sir, for sharing the vision of the conference. May I now request Professor Dr. Ajay Kapoor, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, to address the audience. Please, sir.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here with you all today, and my thanks to the organizing team for organizing this conference, which is in a very, very important area. When I think about one person's life, food is very important. We have covered agriculture. Health is very important. We have covered that area. And then everything else is also very important, the living and all the creature comforts. And you are covering energy, which is has a very direct correlation with how various things are done. Now, many things go into creating a research group. And I have also done a lot of research in the past, but then if you think about old inventions, it was very easy to pinpoint a person's name on that invention. So you can ask a question, who invented a light bulb? Who invented telephone? Who invented a sewing machine in India, singer and all that. So that's very, very easy. What was happening was one single person is spending all the time doing all the research, all the technology development will come up with a product. And that's pretty good. Two things. One, let's say, barrier to developing something new was quite low. A lot of things were not there. Secondly, bringing together of all the things was not happening all that much. Now come to next phase, and you find research teams were formed, and the famous examples of Bell Labs and other places where you take very, very clever people, put them all together, give them all the facilities, and they come up with wonderful pieces of research. A lot of things that we take for granted in computer era have come out of those kind of research labs. So you begin to see that teamwork becomes quite important. Putting the right kind of expertise together becomes very important. Giving them facilities to experiment, develop technology, trial out many prototypes and see what succeeds, that also becomes a very important. And that is why you find it's very difficult to nowadays say that who has invented a phone. Very difficult, the modern phone. Maybe 1,000 people, maybe 10,000 people, maybe 100,000 people. Everybody has contributors. Very dense technology. Contributions from a lot of people. I notice one more change happening right now in front of us. So in the past, of course, labs are needed. Of course, prototyping facilities are required. So analysis, understanding, and then building, both are required. But then intelligence to put it together was also very important, and different domains, different experts coming together, and these conferences were really the place where this was happening. So you could go talk to somebody who has got a different viewpoint on the problem you are working on, or a different technique that you may use, and it was very good to just find time, sit down with him or her, and then see how can that expertise, that knowledge, that understanding, that viewpoint can be applied to problem you are working on. So that's very important. I'm very glad, Dr. Okrandi, you mentioned that, yes, present your paper, but see what others are doing. Network, talk to them, tell them about your work. Very important. Now there is one more thing which is happening, which I am very sure most of you are using and will use it, and that is intelligence. So even though we call it in a funny way artificial intelligence, but then I don't know how do you define artificial and real intelligence? Intelligence in any way. And the capability of looking at incredible amount of memory, understanding that, compiling it all together, now is available to you on your mobile phone or on the cloud. So what I'm trying to say is that in the past, maybe even 20, 25, 30 years back also, when we needed to bring different domains of knowledge together to solve a problem, you can actually do it single-handedly. You can have those experts on your mobile phone, in your laptop, on your desktop, in the cloud, giving you advice, working together, and solving a problem. So that is a wonderful opportunities which my young friends in the audience have today, which when we were working in this area, whatever 30, 40 years back, we did not have. But even I'm using that quite a lot now, and amazingly, successfully, these technologies tell me what is happening. So a lot of maths you can do, a lot of physics you can do, a lot of chemistry you can do, a lot of biology you can do. I know friends who spend their lifetime working on a protein. Now AlphaFold can give you any folding of the protein just like that. So just imagine the speed at which you can solve a problem. Very good. But then solve the problem for what? And that is where an target and end game becomes important. The purpose. So my request would be to dedicate that towards the development of the society, the humankind. Some countries, many parts of us are also very good people. All of us are gifted and blessed. We have what we need. But a lot of people just go out and find that they are not gifted by the intelligence that we have been gifted with. or the material benefits that we have been gifted with. The technologies that you have, the passion you all have, and the career you are developing can help you uplift the society that way. So with that, I'll wish you best of luck. I'll wish organizer a grand success in this area, and my profuse thanks to organizing committee, Dr. Ukrandi and everybody in organizing this. Okay.
Thank you, sir, for your wishes. I now have the honor of inviting Dr. Arumugam Murugaya, our esteemed chief guest, to address the audience. We look forward to your insights and inspiring words.
Distinguished Vice Chancellor, Dr. Ajay Kapoor, and Director and the Chairman of the conference, Suresh Ukrande, and respected faculties, researchers, and students. It is always a great opportunity to stand before researchers. As you know, the country's GDP does not matter. Your country's innovation and the kind of contribution you do it to build strength. Namely, today's topic is very interesting. You have been taking technology explorations in the field of energy, then agri-tech, and thirdly, health. So these three areas needs a lot of research and commitment. As you all know, India is a country, we produce a lot of papers, but we are not done much of a path-breaking innovation which the globe has witnessed. So it is now the time we have to really progress. I'm happy this organization, this particular research event was focused on three very, very important areas. Talking about energy per se, in fact, I had the opportunity of building the first energy solution in Tamil Nadu. In the sense, I have created a computerized billing, which is an automated billing, and I have also created a grid connectivity. All the grid connectivity. First time I started to witness, is there any power theft is witnessed. So I started to have the aggregation of domestic and industrial use, then the transformer outage. So I was able to see, is there a leak, power theft. So that was the first instance which I have created through a IT-based solution. So what happened? Then the Energy Secretary in the Government of India was very, very keen that this should be extended across India. So I had the opportunity to build in Gujarat, and I created the energy system in Gujarat. Then India, all over India, they wanted me to create a project called APDRP. That was the first birth of energy distribution. So that is where we have witnessed two important concepts. One is your frequency. Whenever you see the supply frequency matters a lot. Every chairman electricity board used to witness the frequency of the supply. When it falls below, it actually should remain at 50, but they manage up to 48. Sometimes it's go a little below 48. Then what happens? That particular state will drip out of the central grid. Once it is dripped out of the central grid, it takes not less than 5 to 6 hours to restore the power, because it starts from hydroelectric power and it will start to restore the. This was a very big mockery. Many people who visit in India, they used to witness this kind of dripping. So we created an truncated connectivity of grids across India. So wherever power starving states can draw power from the power rich states, namely Uttarakhand, Himachal. They have huge power to give, and consumers needs it. So this stabilization we have done. This little work has brought up the image of India, and we were able to build industries with regular power. There is no power cuts. And today you don't hear power cuts much at all. We have developed a lot. But today I did see these youngsters who have come up with so much of innovative projects. Well, I think today the dominance of artificial intelligence is pretty high. I think the way artificial intelligence sweeping across the world, it become a great deal to watch. Let's not, when you look at science, engineering, technology, science is just a theoretical proof. Engineering is what you do with a theoretical proof into a model, working model. Technology, that is where the whole world talks about it. You take this to a human life. So ultimately, how you touch the human life matters your innovations. So I'm very happy you have called it as technology, and I wish we must start building things which are going to touch the human life. In fact, talking high about AI model which is going to reflect something from the satellite, these are all not very relevant. Try to look at your environment. You are young people, I just want to really tell you, your innovation always focus around your own society. You see a lot of problems. People who go through a lot of issues, try to understand how exactly you can put in your system to cover this up. See, time immemorial, there were a lot of issues in the grid management. Why? Because you have got the duck curve. You all know the duck curve. What happens is, you have a large amount of power drawn out of the renewable energy source which pour into your grid. While you get so much of power from the renewable source, and your need will be on the peak hours. So how are you going to bridge this? All this solar energy, wind energy, it's all seasonal. Particularly wind energy. Solar energy is always in the bright sunshine. So how are you going to bridge it? That is where they are bringing pumped storage hydroelectric system. That was a beautiful innovation. Now hydrogen cells. So the hydrogen cells, they produce very pure renewable energy. So that is, and the solar energy, how you are going to mitigate the peak hours is a big question. So these are models largely can be done through artificial intelligence. Now the confluence of artificial intelligence with quantum computing, it can do path-breaking research. So now Westinghouse is looking, the power outs in US is very rapid now. They are facing a lot of problems. United States is a big country, have got enormous resource, but they have a lot of issues on managing power. So there is a lot of innovation they expect from the young scientists across world. You can be one. Certainly you can be one. So try to think close ideas. As I told you, it should be technology, and the technology should touch the life of a people, and it should spread across world. So now, after the e-commerce, it becomes a global market. You are not building something for your country, you are building for the globe. So your opportunity and marketability goes across world. So another thing also I tell all the researchers, your thought process, ideas, which is turned into a research work, does not stop with the research per se. It should be more technology and an industry. So you have to create the mind for startup ecosystem. So you have to have the mind for building startup ecosystem. So with the advent of quantum, where I've been involved in the last 4 years with Chicago, University of Chicago, and also in my state and Maharashtra state, we are going to bring a lot of path-breaking development in quantum computing. And this is a very visionary project. You must understand, world's largest quantum network is going to be in Maharashtra. That's a very, very key thing. I think you people should have the best advantage of it. Where is it? Quantum computing's power comes in artificial intelligence. You know, you all must be knowing there is a mathematical problem called loop problem, where you give a solution which run through a multiple levels of algorithm, and finally it gets resolved. A complicated such problem in a digital computer takes about 10,000 years. If you are constantly run, it takes 10,000 years to solve the problem. If you feed into a quantum computer, that's what first they have done in Sycamore in Google. That solved this problem in just about 200 seconds. So you can look at the speed, it goes in an exponential speed. That's where we are going to innovate our AI ecosystem. So we have a huge amount of problem, huge amount of stability issues, and lots and lots of smart grids that you have to build. So think through that, and you build a lot of applications and innovations around energy. Coming to agri-tech, if you see the agri-tech, you have host of issues the farmers are facing. As you are aware, in 1947, there used to be a saying, we have a very low productivity of agriculture commodities. We have an extremely low productivity. And as per Malthusian theory and the subsequent theory, they said India will die out of famine in 60. We will have food riots and people are going to die. All this being talked. But how is it is overcome? There was a green revolution by the then minister C. Subramaniam. He created green revolution in 60s. What happened? The same amount of land what you produced, you were able to produce 5 times. Today, it has gone to 100 times. So the agriculture should be very smart agriculture. You have to start getting into the weeding. I think one of the projects about weeding, I really appreciate. I will speak about it a little later. So weeding and fertilizer. Very interestingly, I had a good friend who used to be the professor of agriculture at the Agriculture College, Coimbatore. I happened to visit to talk about something on AI and agriculture, and he invited me to his lab. And I happened to see he has built a beautiful product which is, in a bag of urea, he's replacing by a bottle of solution. And he's able to do that. I said, you have done it, why don't you just expose it? As a professor, he has done this and keeping it himself. I introduced him to the Government of India Fertilizer Ministry. Now he is running a project of 3,000 crore in India, and he has established another fertilizer plant in Brazil. All these things happened in the last 2.5 years. You see, technology gets absorbed. So agriculture per se, the world is looking at us. Every innovation, drip irrigation, or it can be a solar combined lifting of water, solar pump sets, and these pump energy, you can optimize so that with a limited power it should run. So much of IoTs you can use, PLCs can be used for agriculture. Let's modernize our Indian agriculture. So agriculture has got a huge domain which needs a lot of innovation, which we may have to push. Thirdly, about health. Health is my great domain. I've been working in health for a number of years. In fact, today, health, when we did a health system for the Government of India in 94, we did what you call structured medical compliances. So we have created a structure where if someone suffers from malaria, there is a standard treatment guidelines. That's what we have given to them. Today, we are moving into a personalization of medicine. So the the curve that has taken over is so much, particularly complicated cancer issues. These are all has got a lot of similarities. So they started applying personalization of medicine. So now you must have been aware. There are many people go through a chemotherapy. When they go for a chemotherapy, 3 months they go through a chemotherapy, then they will decide this drug did not work. But by then, health loss of the person will be 30%. He's already dead by 30%. Then you start another dose, another 30%. This is one reason lots of patients suffer seriously on cancer treatment. Carcinoma, 30% of our population has carcinoma, cancer. Undetected, out of which at least 60% is undetected. They are just carrying, because it's not a very virulent cancer form, so they survive. So let's create a methodology where the screening becomes easy. You know something? Recently a big research is going on in the US, which is on cancer therapy. Dog has got a fantastic way of smelling and trying to trace things. You would have seen in airports, dog only sniffs across and try to find out who carries a bomb or a drug, etc. So it has got 34,000 instinct on smelling, which they are now doing artificial, but they have yet to do it. But dog sniffing we are trying to do in artificial. So now what happened, there is a professor at the Stanford Medical School has said, we are creating dog sniffing patent to use cancer detection. So if this equipment, why someone else does it, we ourselves can think about it. So this is, hepatics study, if you do it, and if you can build an algorithm, it is possible. It is not difficult, but a little hard work we must do to understand, because great advantage in India, if you talk about any class of cancer, any type of cancer, you have got thousands and thousands of patients. You have large number of patient information only India has. Nowhere you can have, because of our population. So much of cancer is spreading across. So if someone could do this analytics, it is going to be of great thing. Now this is where they are applying application of quantum relation, and they are also applying super optimization to build LLMs with artificial intelligence. They are creating LLMs for this medical diagnosis. So this is one point I said. There are hundreds of such points as far as health is there. Then the molecular research. If you look at the molecular research for drug discovery, it is an area wide open. I happened to travel with one of your chemistry professor. He was talking about his work. I wonder, this team all together, they can think of doing something in molecular. See, the idea comes from multi-faculty. Do not work alone. Don't work alone. If you want to do a real research, don't work alone. You work with a team. Team meaning not your AI team. One guy, for two of them may be AI, two of them may be material science, one may be from mechanical. You must have a cross-faculty involvement and cross-faculty students involvement. See, now you are giving your projects to students respect to that particular department. You have to start thinking about inter-department project work. What happens is, see, engineering is common. It's not, say, I'm being an electrical engineer, I can also work on mechanical, I can work on civil. It's not very complicated. We have done the basic engineering ourselves. So let's have a group and start doing the innovation. Your innovation curve will be faster. You will be able to analyze where exactly your problem lies, and you will be able to mitigate. So lots of things which are happening across the world, and in India we need many things to conclude at a very rapid pace. So coming to your projects, I happen to see the one which is computational analysis of functionally graded material they have done through a FEA, finite element analysis. This is a fantastic project. This will be very useful for defense and aerospace. So I think who has submitted this, I don't know. This is a fantastic project. We must look at it and give them a lot of support. Another one, critical modeling parameters of optimization of robotic assembly lines using SCARA and 6-axis robotics. This person is around? Oh, wonderful. This is a good initiative. I think this is going to have, I am very happy he has used digital twin. The technology digital twin is being talked across world. I think he has used digital twin. I'm extremely happy about his articulation on the robo. Very briefly I could see, but definitely it is a wonderful project, and you have got automation engineering and industrial AI for smart manufacturing. I think this project we must look at very closely. I think it's a wonderful one. Then I have saw one more. It's YOLO V8 and YOLO V11 based deep learning approach to weed detection of sugarcane fields. I think this is an interesting project on agri-tech. When you look at agri-tech, the weed detection is a massive exercise. Once it has to be different from different crops. I think the modeling is good. I think it has got value. Then privacy preserving heart disease prediction using federated learning and neural networks. It is again an interesting one. I think similar projects are already done by Aura. But we don't mind. You do build and try to make it which is more Indianized. I appreciate that project. Then the design and implementation of intelligent assistive helmet system using multi-sensor fusion, SLAM and A+ path planning. It's quite interesting for a country like India. It is going to be very brilliantly thought about it. I appreciate their work, and real-time obstacle direction and will be a special awareness for the bike riders. It will be very useful. It's a good thinking. I think you thought through Indian scenario. That's where I appreciate this. Then the optimization and digital twin simulation of a dual axis solar tracking system. I think if you can demonstrate this, if you have some papers on that, let me have a look at it. I think these are all brilliant projects. I think I won't say others are not bad. Everything is good, extremely good, very good initiative. But these 6 projects attracted me a lot, and you must start involving research, and you must build. Once again, I request you all, must start thinking about what is needed for the country and your surrounding. The person who thought about sugarcane, I really appreciate, because that's a need of the hour. Let's do something and be a technologist and be a very successful innovators, and wish you all the best. Stay blessed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Arumugam. I'm sure his words are a source of inspiration to all the delegates present here. As already mentioned by Dr. Nikam, the conference proceedings of ICTE AH 2025 have already been indexed and indexed in Scopus. I now request our dignitaries to unveil the proceedings of ICTE AH 2025 and also release the souvenir of ICTE AH 2026. Thank you all for unveiling the proceedings. It's a proud reflection of our shared academic efforts. To conclude the inaugural session, I now invite Dr. Makarand Kulkarni, Joint Organizing Secretary, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Organizing Committee ICTH 2026, first and foremost, our gratitude goes to our today's chief guest, Dr. Arguman, for gracing this occasion with his presence and enlightening with us his enlightening words. Sir, your presence has added immense value to this event. We would like to express our gratitude to our Honorable Chancellor, Somaiya Vidya Vihar University, Shri Samir Somaiya, for his generous support in making this conference possible. We are thankful to Honorable Secretary, Somaiya Vidya Vihar University, Lieutenant General H.S. Kahlon Sir, Vice Chancellor, Somaiya Vidya Vihar University, Professor Ajay Kapoor Sir, Registrar, Somaiya Vidya Vihar University, Dr. Enal Gilke Sir, for his motivation and constant support. We are thankful to Conference Chair and Director KJ Somaiya School of Engineering, Dr. Ukrande Sir, for his constant support and valuable guidance at every step. We are thankful to our conference co-chair and Deputy Director, Dr. Deepak Sharma Sir, for his support. We are thankful to our sponsor, MATLAB MathWorks. Our sincere thanks goes to all the keynote speakers and session chairs for accepting our invitations. We are thankful to all the reviewers for helping us in entire reviewing process. We are also grateful to all the HODs, all associate deans, faculty members, staff members for their kind support. Thanks to entire IQAC team, support staff, and student volunteers. Last but not the least, we are thankful to all the authors who submitted their research work in this conference. Thanks to everyone. Best wishes for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kulkarni. We'll begin our plenary talks shortly. I request all dignitaries to kindly take their seats in the audience.
I missed one thing. Let me appreciate the efforts taken by Dr. Shailesh Nikam, Dr. Nandana Prabhu, and Dr. Makarand Kulkarni, being Organizing Secretary and Joint Organizing Secretary, and the Technical Committee, Dr. Vaibhav Narone, Dr. Nilkamal More, and Professor Karthik Patel, and all the faculty members directly, indirectly supported this international conference. Thank you.
The Prasanna Shetty to convene the plenary talk. Warm welcome, sir.
Good morning, everyone. It's my honor and privilege to introduce the speaker for the plenary session, Dr. Ulka Sorje. Volker Sorge is a professor of computer science at the University of Birmingham, UK, where he holds a chair in document analysis and accessibility. He is also an adjunct faculty at IIT Delhi. He has dedicated many years to advancing STEM accessibility, including his work as visiting scientist at Google, where he integrated mathematics support into the Chrome Vox screen reader, and as a member of the MathJax consortium, contributing to formula accessibility on the web, making math content accessible for visual impaired individuals. Through his startup, Progressive Accessibility Solutions, he leverages AI pattern recognition and image analysis to make STEM diagrams accessible for teaching and research. In addition, he serves as Chief Technology Officer for Helix Opportunity, focusing on AI-assisted web accessibility auditing. He is also associated with community project related to accessible school education at Hyderabad. On behalf of all of us, I welcome Professor Volker Sorge. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I would prefer using my own computer, if that's all right, but is this... Alternatively, I mean, I can try to work with this. I would rather use my own computer. Is that possible?
Yes, yes.
I feel much more comfortable.
Will you need the slide change?
Do you want me to use that? Yes, please. Thank you. Is it coming? Thank you for having me. While I've sorted out the technical difficulties here, I have to admit I'm a computer scientist. I like to work with my own computers. I want to have full control over whatever I do with these machines. So give me a second till we sort out those problems. And display. We'll just, and then we need to mirror this thing. And there we are. Right, so it's a great pleasure to be here. And I have to admit, I was very surprised by the kind invitation, because I do not work in energy. I use it, but I don't work in it. I do not work in agriculture either. And what could possibly broadly called, I might work in healthcare, because I work on accessibility for people primarily with visual impairments, blindness, low vision, but also with learning impairments. I do not see that as healthcare. Personally, I feel this is a basic human right. What do? It's the basic human right to accessibility to learning, studying, and information. So the basic human right to learn and to education. And so in many ways, it shouldn't be a kind of a healthcare thing, which is kind of provided on an if-need basis. It should be a standard for everybody. And I'll tell you a little bit about where I'm coming from, in particular, since I have a background in mathematics. I have worked for many, many years on the borderline between mathematics, logic, computers, and how to get everything kind of human-based mathematics into computer mathematics. And one of the things you do there is trying to understand what some of these structures that we actually see on a page, what they actually mean. Well, once you do this, and once you try to make a computer understand what the mathematics is that is in a textbook, you have a way into the mathematics in the sense that you can now start explaining it to people who don't understand it, but also to people who don't even see it and therefore can't read it. And that was the point where, in many ways, some of my work was guided by the idea of making math accessible to people. And it was then accelerated when T.V. Raman, some of you might know him, he used to be a research scientist at Google, and he invited me for a sabbatical over to Google to spend a year there, putting some of the ideas that I was working on with my research group at Birmingham at the time, which was called the Scientific Document Analysis Group, into practice in a big screen reader system called Chromevox at the time, which powered Chrome as well as Chrome OS and Chromebooks and so on and so forth. And that kind of, well, obviously shifted my trajectory primarily because once you start working in a company like Google and once you start working with effectively millions of users rather than just a couple of people that might read your paper by chance, you understand what impact is and what impact your work actually has on the life of people who need these technologies. And since then, I've continued working on these things, and they're kindly giving me they are kindly giving me this slide shifter, I assume it is, and I tell you now why I can't use it. And the reason why I can't use it is because what I believe in strongly is what is called web accessibility. The web is a medium which allows us to read information, get information, and publish information very quickly and reachable and easily understandable or accessible for everybody, right? This is different from, say, some PowerPoint slides, which you can change with this clicker here, or from a document which is, say, a Word document, which just lives on a computer somewhere, right? And therefore, everything I do has to do with web accessibility. And I don't like people who don't do what they preach. So all my slides are exclusively a web document. There's a single web document. They're fully accessible. And everything I'll tell you, what the work we've been doing, I can demo you in my slides. And I think this is something very important. And I'll show you an example first. Here you go. Some of you might remember what this is. This is a math book, NCERT, right? There's a lot of things in there which are interesting to observe, and I'll go through some of them. The first thing is I've already alluded to. What this bit here is a PDF. So it is a document which was originally made for a printer because printers use pixels and they like to print things in black and white and sometimes color, but all they really understand are pixels, so they kind of, print out these pixels and that's it, right? Whatever's written in there, that information in many ways is lost. If you're lucky, the information for the text is still available, not always. You might have come across PDF documents where you try to copy things out and you can't, because effectively that is just black and white pixels. It's an image or it's whatever it is, but it's no longer available for you. But in case you're lucky, it might be available, and you can, if you can't see the PDF document because you might be blind, you can then start a screen reader and it will start reading out things like, well, what the textbook is chapter 1, and then its range as the set, and so on and so forth. And then you start already running into trouble. Because now what you get are things like, I don't know whether you can see that all from the back, but believe me, these are mathematical formulas. And these mathematical formulas, they might not be accessible at all in a PDF document. They don't exist in there often. And if they exist in there, they exist in a format which does not correspond to what your teacher would tell you when they write that formula on the whiteboard or blackboard or whatever it might be. Another thing is, and this is one of the reasons why if you're particularly sitting in the back, now I'll make things larger for you, right? You see what gets larger? Primarily what gets larger is the website. The PDF pretty much stays the same. It stays illegible. So in many ways, all of these things, all that information that your author has poured into this book is obscured all of a sudden because it's written in a document which is not accessible with symbols which might not be accessible. And then what's even worse, a lot of that information that you actually have to learn, it's even difficult to get to the information just by scrolling the mouse. A lot of that information is hidden in some sort of diagrams which you have to understand, you have to be able to see, and you have to be able to interpret correctly. And these are the things I work on. I'll try to make this information available on the web in a way that everybody can see it, everybody can read it. Even if you can't see the web, you can still, or if you can't see visually the representation of what's on your screen, you can still listen to it and work with it and understand it. And that's effectively what my work is about. Let me get back to my slides. And yes, and I still have maintained a professorship at the University of Birmingham. I am an adjunct faculty at IIT Delhi. I work a lot with the MathChecks Consortium, where we make math accessible on the web, or where we effectively make math available on the web. And I work with a bunch of companies where we work on diagrams and other things. So I'll talk about, I mean, I've already motivated, I hope, a bit why it's important that content that is made for STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, that this is available for everybody to be able to learn. Because otherwise we cut out a lot of the skill pool. A lot of people are not allowed to learn these very, very important subject areas. And and throughout my talk, I will effectively, I will first show you what the issue is, and then I'll demo pretty much how we solve it. I'm not going to go into too many technical details. I'll just motivate a bit what's going on in the background. And I will also, because it's fashionable these days, draw a comparison what's possible with modern day AI, i.e. we're talking large language models, and what still isn't possible with them, and why we still need some of the kind of more old-fashioned approaches to these solutions. Right, so the basic aim of my work, and I always like to reiterate this, is to take content, STEM content, content that contains hard problems, that is formulas, diagrams, graphics, tables, and data in general, get it to the web and make it accessible there. So it's universally accessible for everybody, regardless of their abilities or disabilities. And the work I've done over the years is obviously things like formula recognition. We've done PDF conversion. We've done all kinds of things. And I'll just kind of tell you now about what literally should be the ideal world. And I would also like to stress what is not the aim of my work. In particular, the aim of my work is not to force people to use certain systems, because only if you use system A, you can make it content that is accessible for a particular group. That is not a good idea, because that means you're restricting authors and their creativity, and you never want to do this. Authors are there to do the hard work, to do the thinking, and then put it out there. And you want to make it easy for them to put it out there in a format that is accessible for everybody. You also do not want, what I also do not want is people that have a disability to have to use a particular system in order to have access, say, to mathematical formulas or to diagrams and so on and so forth. Because thinking about it, if a subject area, like most STEM subjects, in particular mathematics, but also physics and so on and so forth, they're already tough enough as it is. If you give people an extra learning curve by telling them, but now you also have to use this particular operating system with this particular browser and only with a particular plugin, and you have to learn an entire new system, that is not a good idea. So from that point of view, we want to do everything as natural as possible, and we just want to use we just want to use the web, and the web only, where people already are familiar. Everybody can browse the web, right? Even my late 94-year-old father managed to browse the web, barely, but he managed. He would not have been able to double-click on something on a desktop or anything like this. Right. Okay. So the question is, of course, why is this difficult? Why doesn't that all work like when I just read normal text? Well, normal text in a way is simple, right? These are words, you've got sentences, you've got a defined structure. Often you know what language it is, you have a dictionary that tells you how to pronounce things, and even if you don't know a word, you might have rules how to pronounce things, and so you can kind of read it out automatically from a page. Now, in scientific subjects, this is not the case. The whole point about scientific subjects is not to be a static language. They are, in fact, infinite in the sense that on a daily basis, you, me, everybody who works in a scientific field invents new concepts, maybe even new words, new definitions, and so on and so forth. So you can't have a static approach by just saying, oh, well, you know, we'll just write down the entirety of all of mathematical knowledge now, then we know how to pronounce everything in the future. Well, tomorrow the next mathematician comes along and defines something new, proves a new theorem, and all of this goes out of the window, right? So we need something that's constantly evolving and that's constantly statically being, dynamically, not statically, sorry about that constantly dynamically allows us to make content accessible. So when you think about, for instance, how you would do historically content accessibility of that nature is that, okay, if I have a blind student in my class and I teach from a particular textbook, then what we need is we need some expert or somebody to read it out. So we get an audio file, for instance, and then somebody can read it. Then the student can listen to it, and they can learn from that. Now, that doesn't work anymore these days, because nowadays, you know, tomorrow is my lecture. Tonight, I'm going to prepare my learning material, meaning that the student that's blind in my class tomorrow will not have things read out to them. They will not have the most current teaching material available, because we no longer use those textbooks that we used 20 years ago. Everything is ephemeral, everything is kind of on the move, everything is dynamic. So we have to react to this. And so this is the reason why things are being made accessible directly and on the web. So I'll start with an example. Everybody knows this formula, I hope. It's the one we always use to demonstrate. This is the quadratic formula, right? Now, if you think about, I'll come along now, and I'm trying to read this out to you. Obviously, I'll start reading the page, because you can't see the page. So it's example A, rendered formula. And then, then I start reading left to right. X equals, and then I'll have the first problem. Where do I start reading? If I start just reading left to right, and I'm the computer, or I'm the screen reader, where do I actually start? Do I start with the x equal, or do I start with the minus b? Because in many ways, you know, if you just think about normal lines on your website, this is already the first issue. So you have a two-dimensional layout in a way where you need to understand how you have to read it out and how this is being structured, right? And the way you can actually put this in the site is, regardless of the actual structure, you can just put all these characters on the page and then use all the technical tricks you have available in the web, which is normally called styling. Some of you might be familiar with this, CSS, for instance, how to place them. Right? That doesn't have anything to do with the way you read them. So what we do is we have our own, this MathJax library, and what it does is it takes this expression, which is initially just a very simple LaTeX expression. This is how mathematicians like to write their mathematics. And then it lays it out on the page, and it does something clever in the background. It also interprets it mathematically, and then it injects some speech. And I'll show you how that works. So if you can see, if you can read the subtitle, it says x equals the fractions with numerator and so on and so forth. We don't have to do this. We can listen to it. I hope we can listen to it. Nope. Doesn't like it. So yeah, that's the demo for you. Sorry, normally it should start reading it out automatically. Let's switch it on. Oops. Nope. Did I lose my connectivity? Let me reload those pages. Maybe that'll help. Oh. We don't get the sound.
Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac and denominator 2a.
Right. So you can see it reads it out, or you could hear it reads it out. If you can't see the formula, you can listen to it. You could hear it being read out, and you can see this this highlighting throughout the formula, which tells you the order in which it's being read out. This is a feature which is particularly appreciated by people with dyslexia or with learning impairments. And the overall reading out, of course, is something that's primarily for people with visual impairments. And then you can also get the subtitle, you know what the math actually means. And then, of course, this is a fairly lengthy formula. By the time you might be at the 2a, you might not remember anymore what the beginning was, right? So what's important is that you can actually engage with this learning material, that you can engage with that formula. And the way you engage with the formula is simply very similar to what you would do on the website. Well, you can obviously, on most people, particular people who can see, use the mouse on websites. Blind people primarily use the keyboard, and they navigate with the tab and the cursor keys or the arrow keys. And so you can navigate with the arrow keys into this. And you can hear that it's still talking, if I can give those.
Equals b fraction with numerator negative b plus or minus
Right.
the square root of
Let's just break it off here. I assume everybody gets the idea. So the idea is you can walk into these expressions, and you can navigate further and further down and break them up, and you can understand every single bit of it as you would need to. And I'll tell you a bit about some of the technical details, how that actually works. So as I already said, all of this is being rendered with an open source library called MathJax. And MathJax is kind of the rendering solution for mathematics on the web. So we have a big sponsorship program in the background there, which contains a lot of professional societies like the American Math Society, American Physics Society, Royal Society of Chemistry, and so on and so forth, as well as a lot of big publishers like Elsevier, Springer Nature, IEEE, and so on. And they use this library for the mathematics in their own web published, or in their own web publishing pipeline, and therefore get not only very nicely rendered mathematics, but also accessible. And the way this really works is, and this is more for the technical bit, is that if you look at, I don't know who's familiar with LaTeX around here. There's a couple of hands, right? LaTeX is this way where you write math documents effectively. And it's really nice when you want to typeset mathematics, because it gives you a way of just linearly writing out your mathematical expression in ASCII, and then your LaTeX compiler effectively goes away and renders it pretty, and it all looks great. Right? It's not that great when you actually want to write an entire document with it, but we'll talk about that later. And then and the source for the mathematical expression up there, which is just a quadratic equation, not even the quadratic formula, is something like ax caret 2 plus bx plus c equals 0. So it's pretty much the same thing. But you can see, apart from the little caret symbol, which actually has some meaning, that it's an exponent, everything else is just flat. However, when you actually want to navigate this thing, you want to do this in a mathematical manner, right? So you want to say something, let's switch this off. What you want to not just have the entire formula, but you now want to explore it. You want to explore it in a semantic way, meaning that if I go down in that expression, I want to be on the left-hand side of the equation. Then I can kind of walk over and go to the right-hand side of the equation. And if I'm on this left-hand side, this sum, then I want to be able to walk through all the summands separately. So in other words, what you need to be able to do is, rather than just having this very, very linear expression, you need to break it up in something that actually allows you to understand the navigation you want to be able to do on that. And what we use for this is that engine that I originally built when I was at Google, which I called the Speedrel engine. Not very inventive, but in many ways, that was originally what we built in ChromeVox, and it's now a standalone system which is used by quite a number of systems out there. And I'll show you what this does in the background, if the internet is allowing me to do that here. Can I just, nope, I do have connection, so this is weird. Let me try that again. Nope, it's loading. Okay, I'm afraid it's not strong enough, I suppose. So what you would see is now kind of the transformation of what happens between that formula and the tree that you actually get. And the tree, let's go over there again. Nope, that's a different tree. It's trying to load it, but it's very, very slow. Maybe we'll get it in a few minutes, then we'll come back to it. So this is effectively what happens. So we take the math, we render it, we interpret it, we make it accessible, we put it all on the web. You can't even see that it's accessible, but it is there. And if you need it, you can use it. That means it's kind of a universal way of displaying mathematics. It's not just for you who can see, or it's not just for you who is blind, because you can listen to it and you get an audio file. No, it's all embedded into one. Right? And it has other features that are good for visual for learning impairments and so forth, and so on and so forth. And I'll just show you one more thing about this. Oops. Here's a slightly more complex formula. It's physics, so I don't really know what it means. I'm a mathematician by training. But it effectively, it works with Hamiltonian numbers, that much I know. And but the way it's being translated now is, there is speech in the background, and I could switch that on, but for demo purposes, I'll show you now what also you can get out of it. This is Braille. And this is something that would then be output on if you have a refreshable Braille display and you read along your side, this is what you would get. And you can do the same trickery as before, because this is a bloody long Braille expression, as you can see. If you have a 20-character Braille display, it doesn't even fit. So you might need to actually go through it in more detail, so you can start again, go through. This is long, so you can dive into it, and so on and so forth. Now, let me see whether this other thing has worked by now. Nope. Oh, there you go. That's our tree. That's the tree I wanted to show you earlier. It took a while to load. And again, just to show you how this is being done in the background, this is being broken up. The single elements are being interpreted, and then they're being mashed together, and the tree is built up, and the building is actually bottom up, and then you get a tree which clearly has a root, which is the equality, and you have a left-hand side, you have a right-hand side, and the left-hand side and the right-hand side, and the left-hand side is the sum with 3 summands, and the first summand is a times x squared, and so on, right? And this way you can read that. And of course, the next question is, well, can't we just use an LLM for that? Because all this, what we do here is fairly heuristic, it's fairly, there's a bit of what good old-fashioned, for some of you who are old enough, remember expert systems used to be an AI technique. There's effectively an expert system in the background, which does the voicing and the interpretation. And the answer to this is, can we just use an LLM? Can't we just get Claude to do everything for us? And the answer, unfortunately, is yes and no. Yes, for a formula like the quadratic formula, who's like a million times out there on the web, fantastic. Claude is probably giving you multiple different versions how to read it better than I do, or my system does. For anything, not anything, but much of the mathematics, in particular newer mathematics, particular more outlandish mathematics, there's not enough training data. You will get errors. And for a subject area like mathematics, it's just not good enough if you only get 80% correct interpretations, right? You don't want your system to hallucinate on some mathematical formula. That is not good. And in particular, so as I said, the newer the mathematics is, but also every time you ask your system, you might get a different interpretation. That's also not very good for actually learning a subject area like mathematics, right? And it gets worse in other areas. And the other areas are the ones I'm going to talk a bit about now. Next. And those are diagrams. What about diagrams? What are we going to do with diagrams? I've showed you earlier the math, and I showed you the diagrams. And that are in the NCERT book, for instance. How do we deal with those? Well, in many ways, we can do something very similar. And I'll show you a first example, and that's a diagram which is a chemical diagram. Some of you might be more familiar with chemistry than I am. Certainly, I am not an expert, but we've been working on a system that can interpret chemical diagrams. They can interpret chemical diagrams from paper, from images, from wherever, and then make them accessible by rendering them for the web. And the web model normally is called what's called SVG, Scalable Vector Graphic. I'll show you what that means. That means that whenever I zoom in, this diagram is drawn again. So it's not an image which becomes grainy, and the larger you blow it up, the less you see. Remember your snapshots from the last holidays when we were trying to figure out what is in the background there, and you pan and then you zoom in, and all of a sudden you can't see anything anymore because it's just pixels. This is not what happens here. This is what happens here is every time I zoom, these vectors are effectively redrawn, and it stays crisp, it stays clear, and it is a full web structure, not just an image. And that also allows us to embed whatever information we might have on that chemical diagram or whatever information we've computed on it into that diagram. And then we can start making it talk, very similar to the mathematics. We can start making it talk. Let me put this. And we can start, as I said, this is an SVG. We can change the background colors. We can do all kinds of trickery with it. And we can start navigating it, very similar, naturally, just with the arrow keys.
Benzene ring substitutions at positions 1 and 2.
And we can walk into that, and this is a benzene ring.
Functional group ester.
This is ester, whatever.
Carbon 1, single bonded to oxygen 2.
So we can walk through all of these,
Oxygen 2,
and so on.
single bonded to carbon 3. Functional group ester.
And if you don't know what a functional group ester is, if you have no idea what ester is, you can get a bit of an explanation.
Functional group COCOCH3.
So it tells you kind of the structural formula directly. Sorry, that was the wrong key.
Functional.
And you can do all kinds of other things, right? So you can have things like translations. So you get Japanese, you get German, and so on and so forth. Some of these things you can do quite easily and nicely using an LLM these days, for instance. Some of these things you can do even more precisely using chemical databases, and there's plenty of those out there. So the Royal Society of Chemistry has one, the NIH has a big one, and so on, where you can get all of these things interpreted once you understand what the parts are, right? And the way, and for those of you who want to know a bit more about how this technically works, is that when you get the image, and this is a pure image now, you would do an image analysis on there, you would try to understand what the major components are, and then you would group these major components together. And then you would find out that, okay, here's a ring, and here's some other things, and here's some other things, and then you send these to the databases, and you get them interpreted, and then you get effectively the correct speech back, or you build it into the speech, and then you can make it accessible. Again, why are we not using an LLM for all of this? Well, we've been experimenting with quite a few. Some of it works quite nicely. So for instance, benzene ring, there's the ring structure down there, it will always find. Some of them it only finds sometimes. And then it really is critical to understand, well, what kind of a molecule is this? Is this aspirin or is this heroin, right? This is really something which kind of makes it crucial to be absolutely precise. And in scientific subject, precision is important. And at that stage, we're not there yet that those systems are precise enough. They can help. They can help quite well. So in particular for breaking things up into components, for instance, fantastic. You can do a lot more these days with Gemini than you could do with the good old image analysis algorithms that we used to have. But again, it's not always 100% flawless. Right, and obviously, just to demonstrate, all of this works nicely on larger structures as well. And I'm not bothering with the microphone now. What I want to motivate with this particular structure is that this is chemistry. The nice thing about chemistry is that, let's stop talking here. Shut up, please. That chemists are very meticulous. They're very, very precise. They know exactly how to interpret something like this. They know where to start and where to end and how to interpret these things. Now, the problem is that we also talk with other scientific, we also want to make other scientific subjects available, and one of which is, of course, mathematics. And the nasty thing about mathematics is that mathematicians are involved, and mathematicians are anything but precise, and therefore you can get arbitrary types of diagrams effectively. You know, here's just a small selection. Some of them is more computer sciencey, some of them a bit more theoretical physics, but all of this is effectively not as easily grasped as chemistry, and therefore what we currently are working on are authoring tools, and I'm not sure how much time I have. I can go on all day. So tell me how much time I have, and then all right. Then I'll just tell you a bit about that. What we're working on are direct authoring solutions for these kind of mathematical diagrams, which allow you to make them accessible in a similar way as the chemical diagrams. And these authoring solutions are not just supposed to be there. Let me go this one. It might take a while to load. These are not just there. Then we're trying not just to give those to actual authors who write normally their LaTeX and then use this, you know, in order to write their graphics rather than in TIXI, but also we're trying to get students with visual impairments to actually be able to use that. So this is kind of, you know, you've got different kind of syntax in which you describe this, then you go in there, and you can then start navigating it similar.
Axis, the graph and its tangent line, the graph of the function f.
And you can even sonify that, but I can't hear that right now. Anyway. and so the idea is that this language on the left-hand side is just, I'm not going to go into detail, but it's a very, very simple language, and you can write it in a much more human style, which is called YAML. And this is the kind of language which we're trying to get students with visual impairments to actually use in order to prepare their own graphics so they can communicate them with their peers as well as with their teachers. Right? And the idea there is that traditionally people would use these graphics and make them tactily available, and that's possible here too, and I'll show you quite quickly how that works. If I can find my mouse, right? So here you go. This is how it would see if you were to now try and make this tactile available. So you can touch these lines, you can put this into a thermoform or an embosser, you touch these lines, you can read the braille, and you can't read it on the screen, of course, but you could read it when you print it out. Now, unfortunately, not all schools or not all environments are equipped with the equipment you would need in order to make this available tactily, because that's actually quite expensive. So what we started working on, trying to get kids to actually use the online tools in order to understand the mathematics and in order to understand and in order to do the work. And so we started last October. We started working with the Defna School for the Blind in Hyderabad. Working with them, so this is the science teacher, and this is Nia Jadaf, my collaborator, and this is the math teacher, and they are the kids, all of them blind with the exception of that girl. She has 10% rest vision, and they were all work, and this is us. They gave me some nice outfit then, and at a festival where all the kids were dancing, and we were spending an entire week there testing whether the solution is workable, which I'm happy to say it is. Kids were very excited to be able to actually do the math on the computer. It is scalable in the sense that they used to have exactly one tactile graphic per classroom, and those are 30 kids in the class. And now they can kind of all work separately on it. And of course, you know, there are certain things we have to iron out, and I'll be going back after this meeting on Saturday. I'll be heading back to Hyderabad. We'll work again there next week, and we're trying to kind of to make everything larger and to roll out things on a larger scale. And this is where I would like to kind of refer back to the previous speaker, to our chief guest. Scale is something that's easily achievable in India. If I find 2 or 3 students with a visual impairment in the UK, for instance, the New College in Worcester, I'll go to Hyderabad, and we have, you know, a large number of students where we can actually get relevant and statistically significant data, not just scientifically to put it in a paper, but also to understand what's actually going on and how we can help people much better. And that's the whole point. And the whole point of my, I would say in the end is, and I always like to refer to this as the Holy Grail. And let me just end with this, that in the future, we're going to write papers like this, not just because it's I'm on there, but papers that are not as in a printed form only, not only as a PDF form, but that are on the web and that are fully accessible. So here are the accessible graphics in there. And likewise, here, this is just fully, as you can see here, this is how it would be read out now. You can see the focus outline. Fully accessible listings, which is particularly important for computer scientists and people who are trying to communicate anything with algorithms. And similarly, you would have accessible mathematics. Not quite sure why this is not accessible. I might have switched it off. Yes, this is switched off. I don't know. So anyway, so this is what I want to like to close with. So as a learning outcome, I hope, from this lecture is, first of all, accessible STEM education is important for everybody. It is a human right. but we have the means of making it, or being able to do this, if we use the right medium. In my opinion, and this might not be everybody's opinion, the right medium for this is the web, because we can do pretty much anything that we need to do in terms of speech output, in terms of graphics output, everything on the web. And we have to move on from archaic publishing methods like printed books and go to the web and make things universally available for everybody, so that everybody can participate in what we do here. Thank you very much.
Audience, if you have any queries, you are welcome. Yeah, there is one hand raised. Please ask. Yeah, another two. Somebody pass on the mic. Student volunteers.
You just want to. Okay, so I'll repeat the question so everybody, the question was for multi-level equations, how is the navigation order decided? That is a very good question, because that depends pretty much on how the interpretation in the background works. So as I said, the interpretation there is mainly heuristically, but since we're coming from a language, LaTeX, where we have a lot of semantic information already, for instance, sometimes we know it's chemistry, sometimes we know it's physics, and some of these things have to be differently spoken as well as navigated. That way, the navigation order is effectively decided by the heuristics that fire in that particular case. Yes. Yes, yes.
It was power of 2. So can we have the same syntax tree for those multi-level equations?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, yes. So it doesn't really matter. So I've showed you the big physics one as well, right? Well, it's exactly the same principle, right? You build up a much larger tree, and I could have shown you huge trees. Yes. And in particular, if you're taking multi-level equations, but say also multi-line equations that might have annotations with big braces and so on and so forth. You can interpret these, and then you start, okay, well, this is the main equation, and this is the annotation for this, and so on and so forth. So you can, yes, all of this, effectively it's infinite, it's recursive, so no problem.
Okay, and how the superscript, subscripts will be taken care in that?
Okay, that is a good, I didn't show you that part, because that is a slightly more involved bit. Superscripts and subscripts are quite easy to do, right? Because we know, there is actually syntactic sugar there that tells us that they're super and subscripts. Right? What is harder to do is to pronounce them right. And I'll tell you now the example, the classic example is, what's the difference between x to the power of a plus b and x to the power of a plus b? Where is the plus b? Is it up there? Yes. Or is it on the baseline, as we like to call it? And yes, and there is, what I showed you there, the language output there is called ClearSpeak. It's a fairly human-oriented way of speaking it, but you can speak things in a less human-oriented way, which is better suited, particularly in complex equations for blind people, where you would say something like x, start exponent, a plus b, end exponent, plus c. Now you know that you're done with the exponent, you're back on the baseline. Right? And this way, think about it as kind of putting extra braces or parentheses in there that give you more of a disambiguates much better the language that you're using. So you know exactly where you are. Can get very, very complex if you have, multiple layers of exponent and so on and so forth. But there's all kinds of techniques, and that's why we have all these these intricate navigation, so you can actually go in there and listen to it in more detail and a finer grained level.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
sir.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. That was a really nice, insightful session. One question I have is, does this accessibility talk about only reading and understanding the formulae as they're written, or it is also extended to, let's say, understanding the geometrical or the mathematical meaning of that formula? Let's say, for example, we have a quadratic formula. How do we, does this help in also understanding how the mathematical formula actually works? Because taking an example, a blind person does not inherently have the understanding of what a parabola looks like. I'm supposing so. So how does this help in that?
Yes, so there was one thing I wanted to show you, but it didn't come across because the internet was a bit slow. And that is what we call sonification. So we could have sonified this one particular curve, for instance, that we had on one of these, on one of the slides. So the way sonification works is that you're trying to kind of give a tone to the say a parabola would be a tone like, I'm not very good at this, I'll try to do this like, ooh, right? Which gives you kind of this impression, and then if you get your cubic curve, you would kind of go ooh, up, down, up, right? And in the tone, which gives you a better idea how the basic shape and structure of this is. Again, when I said, we try to do as much as possible on the web, it's never going to fully replace what you can do, say, with tactile output, that people can actually use it and feel it and understand how the curve works. But it does help a lot with giving people an idea what the relations of particular elements are, how the particular elements lie, say, in the grid, or how, for instance, triangles and circles are related to each other, and so on and so forth, that somewhere is a right angle, any of these things is, that's where it really helps, and it's complementary to tactile output. And then, if you're in a situation, in kind of a low resource situation like in the school in Hyderabad, where you don't even have an embosser, where you get the Raised Line Foundation, that's a foundation in Delhi, they send books with tactile graphics to those schools, but then you have one for the entire classroom, and you have a classroom full of 30 kids, and everybody needs to touch it. Then it doesn't scale. But so you kind of, you start learning it online, and then you can kind of reinforce that learning when you actually can touch these things or listen to them.
Okay, thank you very much. And just one thing.
Yeah, maybe you can take this off.
Yeah, just one thing. Do you follow 3 Blue 1 Brown on YouTube?
Sorry, what?
Do you follow 3 Blue 1 Brown on YouTube? Visualization. He helps actually in these visualizations.
No, I don't. I'm not going to now tell you who I follow on YouTube because it might be embarrassing. But yes, send me that place by all means.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Professor Holkar, thanks a lot for being here and delivering a wonderful session on the accessibility of mathematics documents. Mathematical content on the web. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I would like to invite our director, Dr. Ukrande, to felicitate Professor Holkar.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
Thank you so much, sir. I would now like to inform you about the next set of activities. I request everyone to gather outside for the conference photo. I also request everyone to then proceed for the tea. Okay, the conference photo will be in the auditorium itself. I request everyone to gather forward.